All right, here we go. It is the 22nd of March, 2023. We are in the American Nightmare, the live evil stream. Coming to you once again, bringing a little bit of factual basis to your life. And as my title says, we're going to talk about who the real terrorists in the world are right now, who are the ones that they want you to think are the real terrorists. How close are we to nuclear war at this point in time? A lot closer than you think, than you care to know. And, we need to talk about this. And I'm going to try to bring up some more stuff. At this point in time, I have a little bit of a difficulty doing too much research beforehand. I mean, the most research that I do is, um, on a regular basis is the different podcasts I listen to. Redacted, I usually listen to on the way home. I borrow a lot of their material. I also usually try to listen to T-Lav on a daily basis, get some stuff from that. I haven't really been using too much stuff from them lately, because they just did a membership drive, so it wasn't really a normal show, even though there's a lot of good information on it. But I'll be using him more. He is really good about putting out the links to the information that he sources for his videos, so that you're able to actually look up the different things and come to your own conclusions, as he says. I'd like to try to start doing more of that too, putting the different links in my videos, but I'm in the beginning process of everything, and this is where we're at now. Um, so back to who I think are the real terrorists in this world, and I'll try to give you some information. We'll be using the Bing AI chatbot because it's been convenient to use. It's on my computer. It's a pretty good search engine. I'm not promoting it by any way. Um, you know, like I always say, you got to kind of be a little fearful of this technology that we have right now and where it's going, especially with AI. It could be a dangerous thing, a scary thing. It can also be a great thing. Depends on how you use it, and I'm trying to use it for positive things at the moment. I wasn't sure how to spell Julian Assange's name, so I looked it up on there, and this is what it talked about. It says he is an Australian editor, publisher, hacker, and cyberpunk activist. He has a previous conviction for hacking dating back to 1996. He launched WikiLeaks in 2006. The organization came to international attention in 2010 when it published a series of leaks provided by U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning. Um, Here's his Wikipedia page. I mean, it's scary stuff what they've done to him. I mean, he's looking at what, like 175 years. I mean, people get less for killing people, and all he did is put out factual information that the U.S. government didn't want him putting out. Then they tried to come up with fake allegations of sexual misconduct, is what it says on here, which turned out to be false, but it led to him being issued a warrant for his arrest when he was in the United Kingdom. He said in the Ecuadorian embassy. It looks like he went in there in June 2012, and I think he stayed there until 2019. Yeah, it looks like April 11th, 2019, his asylum was withdrawn. And then I think he's being held in a United Kingdom jail waiting for extradition to the United States because they're trying to bring up a law from like World War II, the Espionage Act. to persecute him, prosecute him, however you want to look at it. So that I just put in free Assange as one of my um and probably one of only two messages on the feed. So back to what I was saying, who I believe the real terrorists in the world are, and you can disagree. I'm just bringing you the information and the way I see things. You come to your own conclusions, but I think this information needs to be out there, and it all deals around with things that I talked about yesterday. How Chinese President Xi Jinping is talking to the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and they basically come up with a peace plan that Putin thinks he would be on board with, but the NATO and U.S. government response to it is that they want to start bombing and targeting different assets in Ukraine that are under the control of Russia. Now, if you don't understand how scary that is, I mean, at this point in time, the Russian war the war we're waging against Russia has been basically just a proxy war where we're using the Ukrainian people as cannon fodder just to let them get destroyed. We're destroying generations of men that are in Ukraine just for the agenda of regime change in Russia. And, for many, many years, we've been using Russia as the boogeyman to prop up the military industrial complex that we have. So, that's yeah, what the agenda is still continuing to be. So I'm typing a few things in here. So give me just one second. You shut up. I don't know why this is beeping at me. I can't get my phone to turn on either. There we go. Still got redacted playing at the moment. They were talking about Poland, and I didn't get all the details. I didn't get to hear all the story, but Poland um, wanting to send jets, wanting to send more armaments to the Ukrainian military, but at the same time, secretly, they're ramping up their trade with Russia. So, being a little two-faced about it. I mean, the Polish country itself is in dire straits. I mean, there's a lot of refugees from Ukraine there. A report they had heard from somebody that was in Poland said that it doesn't even look like a Polish country anymore. You have so many Ukrainians there, and it's not that he's saying it was bad, but um, it's altering the fabric of Polish identity. So take that for what you will. That's just a little tidbit. All right, U.S. response to China talking typed in U.S. response to China talking to Russia about peace in Ukraine. And let's see what it says. I also changed the way it gives me information to being more precise. Before it was, like I said, it was in the middle, so I can't bring it back, but I will go with this for now. Okay. It says according to my sources, the chatbot sources. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow to broker a peace deal and end the conflict in Ukraine. He sought to push a peace talk plan that kept moving on me. A peace talk plan that elicited a frigid response from the U.S., Kyiv's key ally. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken voiced skepticism over China's peace proposals, warning that they could be a stalling tactic to help Russian troops on the ground in Ukraine. Blinken said that it would enable Russia to further entrench positions in Ukraine and allow President Putin to rest and refit his troops and then restart the war at a time more advantageous to Russia. But that's not the peace plan. It's getting the chatbot's getting confused. That was if they were in the peace plan, if they were going to call for a temporary ceasefire, which obviously is far from being a possibility, according to the U.S. So now I'm asking, is NATO going to bomb Russian-controlled regions in Ukraine? I'm sorry, but I couldn't find information about NATO planning to bomb Russian-controlled regions in Ukraine. Is there anything else you would like to know? Well, I'm going to go back up here to theguardian.com, see what they have to say. And just be patient with me here. Essentially, this is I'm using this time to be able to dive deeper into topics that are of interest to me, and I think that more people need to have knowledge of. Um, Too much of it is brought to you by CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or ABC, NBC, even PBS. PBS is one of the biggest um, puppets for the United States propaganda arm. There's been a lot of information that's come out about that lately. Um, Sorry to say I don't have it right in front of me, but so China last month proposed a 12-point peace plan for dealing with the war. The paper largely reiterated Beijing's talking points on the Ukraine war with calls for dialogue. On Monday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken voiced skepticism over China's peace proposals. The world should not be fooled by any tactical move by Russia, supported by China or any other country to freeze the war on its own terms, says Antony Blinken. On Tuesday, White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the U.S. does not see China as capable of being an impartial mediator between Moscow and Kyiv over the war in Ukraine. I mean, if it turns out that China is the one that brings peace to this situation, how much egg is going to be on the face of the United States over all this? It was the most direct criticism of China's aim to be a middleman. Kyiv has previously said that any talks would be contingent on the complete restoration of Ukraine's territory, which, if that was going to be the case, they had the chance to do that back in um, early 2022, but a lot of those plans were stopped by, at the time, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, uh, Boris Johnson. And they were getting close to having some peace deal come together, and uh, automatically he flies on a plane, goes over there, speaks to Vladimir Zelensky, and next thing you know, they're too far to come to any kind of peace deal. I'm just reading a little bit. I don't want to read too much on here and get some kind of copyright strike. So, I mean, you can look it up for yourself. I mean, right now I'm on theguardian.com. Something that's interesting too that I'd seen some information on is how a lot of the videos that they've been showing of Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, have been from like different years, not even like within the last year or so, like 2008, and just sometimes not even the same country. Um, I mean, I don't get it. Everything's such a propaganda arm, and so that's why I'm trying to bring this stuff out and bring it to light, so that way you can kind of get a clear shot of what the news really is. All right. Well, I'm not finding where it says NATO's plan to go in there. Um, and then I couldn't bring up the transcript to um, redacted so I could borrow some of that information that way. Um, See if it'll bring it up now. I did try to do a little bit of pre-prep, but I pretty much got right home and then had to start this. Got a little bite to eat real quick. All right, sweet. My live stream's on my feed. Cool. All right, come on. It's being difficult. Another little tidbit of news that I heard is there's a reporter from an African country who's always at the um, press conferences, press releases for the president. And today they had, I believe it was today, they had the cast of, oh, I'm going to forget the name of it now. Uh, I don't know, they had a cast of a famous TV show there, and Corinne Jean Pierre wasn't really taking any questions. And apparently he was cutting into her about how he hasn't been called on in 8 or 9 months, and when is she gonna allow him to have a chance to talk, because, one of the last times that he did get some questions in, they pretty much escorted him out and yelled at him for being rude. And, I mean, talk about being rude, the fact that you don't even, acknowledge him so that he can ask questions about the area that he lives in and how the US government's policy has direct effects on that. Alright. Over space weather. I don't wanna, directly steal anybody's stuff, but I don't really know how all the stuff that is available so that I can talk about it and be knowledgeable and then show videos and stuff. But, I found the transcripts to I think I did anyways, trying to. The transcripts to, Suspicious Observer's, publication this morning. Okay, right here it is. Um, there's space weather coming up, a big earthquake, and a look at weather, jet and geodynamics translated from Martin Dynamics. Goes on, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the SDO is delayed still. It's nice to have the backup when we start with our star. Um, he says that there's eruptive activity going on activity off the sides. The moon is crossing through the viewing angle to the south. We didn't get much weight as far as solar flares go, but there's still have a CME and corona hole stream coming. Um, Yesterday, were able to see the corona hole, which usually will lead into earthquakes. They got a correlation between where the corona hole is, the corona hole streams, and it affecting earthquakes here. So before the stream arrived, we were in an earthquake watch. And basically, if you had heard about the earthquakes that they had in Turkey and in Syria, um, he was calling for in that general vicinity. I mean, narrowed down for a good part of it, but um, called them like the day before they happened. So it there's a good reason to look into more, do more research on this topic. I know I'm lacking on it, and it shows right now. Um, so there was looks like there was a 6.5 in Afghanistan, which shook the surrounding nations as well. 13 have died. Our thoughts go out to them. Um, he talks about the bomb cyclone that hit California yesterday, turned deadly as well. Yeah, I know, dead air. It's horrible video doing that, and I can't really edit any of this stuff out. I was trying to well see the video and see what's going on a little bit more, but I don't want to. There we go, volume. I'll get this stuff down better. I apologize for not having my shit together, but at least I'm finally doing it. I talked to my buddy today and told him that I was finally doing this. I've been talking to him for about a while about doing this, and he was glad to see that I finally am starting to put it together. And like I said before, we are in a solar maximum, like the beginning stages of it. It should go on for, oh man, what, a couple of years, anyways. Let me ask. Let me ask. So I asked the chat or the Bing AI, how long is the current solar maximum? And it's still searching. The current solar cycle 25, began in December 2019. Solar activity is expected to ramp up until the predicted solar maximum in 2025. On average, the solar cycle takes about 11 years, which that's what I was thinking. Okay, thought maybe it was too long, but okay, 11 years to go from one solar maximum to the next, with the duration observed varying from 9 to 14 years. So I asked it, what is solar maximum? My computer's slow. That's one thing I'm gonna have to invest in a little bit more is a better computer. Solar maximum is the regular period of greatest solar activity during the sun's 11-year solar cycle. During solar maximum, large numbers of sunspots appear, and the solar irradiance output grows by about 0.07%. It is a time when the sun is at its most active, with an increased chance of solar flares and coronal mass ejections, or CMEs. So you ask yourself, I would like to know about CMEs, or coronal mass ejections. Well, I'm going to tell you. And like I said before, I really enjoy watching Suspicious Observers videos. Um, it's real good. I mean, some people think it's too far down the rabbit hole, possibly, but take out of it what you want. I mean, the guy's brilliant when it comes to the different disciplines that, because it's not just, you know, the sun. It has to do with physics, um, astrophysics, geology, weather. I mean, he hit so many different disciplines to come up with how he views things are happening to the earth based on what the sun affects. So, a coronal mass ejection is a significant ejection of magnetic field and accompanying plasma mass from the sun's corona into the heliosphere. CMEs are often associated with solar flares and other forms of solar activity. They can eject billions of tons of coronal material and carry an embedded magnetic field that is stronger than the background solar wind interplanetary magnetic field strength. So I know it probably didn't really answer all the questions, but we're getting started. So, like I had said, though, the real terrorist, I'm not finding what I was looking for originally with that redacted story. See if I can't bring up their video. Now they have a thing about fluoride in the water, which is something that I learned about probably around 2012. Um, they finally released the report, which a guy that writes for TLAV, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. He's he started the Conscious Resistance website and movement. Um, he was um, a key factor into getting a lot of that information out, and has been really pushing it. They had to file a lawsuit in order for it to finally be released, if you can believe that. So this is what I was trying to find right here. Um, and it talks about the United States wanting to launch a massive military offensive against Russia. Um, and it would be in the territories in the Ukraine, in Ukraine, that Russia is having control of at the moment. Um, so it says, according to reports this morning, I'm not sure what reports those are. Um, U.S. and NATO want to attack Russia, and oh man, this is not going smooth tonight. I'm tired too, by the way. I really didn't get hardly any sleep, so I had to help fix that tire that, was blown out, and then at work tonight, um, go from leaking air to, leaking water. I was pushing a cart at work, and it clipped a pipe that, held the gauge for, the pressure on the, uh, sprinkler system at work. Just a tiny pipe. I just barely hit it, and it broke off, and water was going everywhere, so I'm curious to what is gonna be leaking, what kind of fluids or substance is gonna be leaking tomorrow. Yeah, already had air, now we had water, so I don't know. Oh, this is what I wanna get to too, is the fact that, um, the United Kingdom, and I think I might have mentioned part of this yesterday, the United Kingdom wants to send depleted uranium arm ammo, which is used as, uh, tank armor piercing rounds. But the core of these rounds is depleted uranium, which gives it the extra strength. But when they're used, they create a dust that is essentially radioactive. So they've used a lot of this. The United States used a lot of these in Iraq in the wars in Iraq, and it has totally devastated generations of children there. I mean, it pretty much never comes out. And just recently, there was talk about how, um and it was unredacted, he had an interview with somebody, and, um, the the soil in Ukraine is so fertile that they were actually shipping it back to Nazi Germany during World War II. So, you're gonna take this great soil, one of the bread baskets of the earth, and you wanna start using, um, you know, radioactive armaments. What do you think that's going to do to the soil there? I mean, you're besides hurting people, you're destroying places that we can grow food, which is a huge narrative that they're pushing with the food scarcity and we need to eat less beef and eat more plants. I mean, you're not even gonna grow plants there because the soil's not gonna be any good anymore. So that was a little tangent about that. I mean, it's in Putin's response the other day, I was reading, um, he essentially looks at it as, not a full out nuclear attack, but along those lines essentially is the way I read between the lines of what he was saying, and it's just one more step to the doomsday clock hitting midnight. I mean, we are so close right now. I mean, we are probably basically 30 seconds away from midnight on the doomsday clock. And this is, trying to push it to what, 15 seconds away from it? I mean, and the scary thing is too, is how foolish the NATO countries are thinking that uh, it's Putin that's talking about wanting to use nuclear arms. Essentially, he's always said that he will defend himself with nuclear arms if he has to. Vladimir Zelensky has pleaded to have sent to him dirty bombs and other type of nuclear weapons, and other people have talked about being proactive and striking first with nuclear. I mean, are is this what we're really talking about? I mean, that has no outcome that will be good. It is all bad. Uh, it leaves me speechless, essentially, to think that this is diplomacy nowadays. "Oh, let's use a nuclear bomb first before they use it?" I mean, and the most rational people in this whole thing at the moment are from China and from Russia. I mean, it's amazing that the people that we look at as being the, gatekeepers of freedom are, like I had said, the world's largest terrorist. I mean, if the United States goes on and blows up the bridge in Crimea, what do you call that? I mean, you are hurting infrastructure to innocent people. The people in Crimea voted to join the Russian Federation. They have nothing to do with anything that is going on. You're talking about people that are peaceful. They use that bridge to go to work, to travel, to get food, to get everything that they need. They use this bridge, and the United States wants to blow it up. I mean, it's not even a military asset. It's not like I'm sure there's probably weapons and stuff that get brought over on it at times, but it's not like they're setting up guns and running missions from it. So you can say what you want. It's just unbelievable that we would go this far. And the fact that you know that we are the terrorists when it comes out to the Nord Stream bombing. Many of you might not know about that. And it's a very interesting topic. Essentially, you had two pipelines that came from Russia that were supplying natural gas to Germany and other parts of Europe. Well, Nord Stream 1, that was active. That was providing mainly Germany with reliable, low-cost energy in the form of natural gas. All along, the United States has been pushing for Germany to not be dependent on Russian energy. They want the United States wants to sell liquid petroleum gas to Europe, to Germany, so that we make the profit and push Russia out of the market. Well, when the sanctions started hitting because of the invasion in Ukraine, they had just completed Nord Stream 2. It was about to go online. All the permits and everything were ready to be signed to turn on the valve and get even more low cost, reliable energy from Russia, but they stopped that. Well, they were still using Nord Stream 1. Well, at that time, Russia had already had plans to do maintenance on several of the lines that were coming off from it. And in response to the sanctions that Russia got, they scaled back how much they were sending through that pipeline. So they essentially scaled back how much natural gas would go to Europe. Well, things were starting to get tough in Germany. Winter was starting to come around. And, there were rumors and there were protests about getting Nord Stream going back stronger than it was. Well, lo and behold, it blows up. It blows up close to Denmark in the Black Sea. Well, mainstream media, the first thing they put out saying, and they put out a picture of Vladimir Putin in some kind of like personal submarine, saying that Russia had to have blown up the Nord Stream pipeline. Russia are terrorists. How could they do this? Well, first of all, really, well, and it is fact, everybody was happy that Nord Stream pipeline got blown up. Um, there was a leader from Europe that said to the United States, "Thank you for doing it." So he said the quiet part out loud. Prior to that, you have, I believe, Victoria Nuland had said similar things about how that they could stop Germany from using Nord Stream, and you also had uh, President Biden saying that they could stop Germany from using Nord Stream pipeline. And a reporter asked him, "Well, how do you do that?" And he got that little evil grin that he has and says, "We have our ways." I'm gonna ask the chat bot about Biden talking about the Nord Stream pipeline. On February 23rd, 2022, President Biden issued a statement on Nord Stream 2. In it, he said that since Russia began deploying troops to the Ukrainian border, United States, they put up videos and blocked me out, and I said, "Oh, I can't see what I was reading." That the United States has worked closely with its allies and partners to deliver a strong, unified response. He also mentioned that Germany had announced that it would halt certification of the pipeline and close consultations between the two governments. President Biden directed his administration to impose sanctions on Nord Stream 2, so they didn't want to talk about that. Let me ask it a different way. Did Biden threatened to take down Nord Stream? It's being slow. Slow. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So that was the one I'd read before was from February 23rd. On February 7th, 2022, President Biden said that the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline would be halted if Russia invades Ukraine. He said that if Russian forces cross into Ukraine, it would trigger a shutdown of the pipeline. When asked how he would ensure the pipeline would be brought to an end, he said, "I promise you, we will be able to do it." So there you go. The things that I say aren't just opinions of mine. They usually come from things that I've seen in the news, which you can't always believe everything that you read or see. But this was during a press conference, so there's little room for them to edit that. Let's see what Reuters, arm of the propaganda machine, has to say. So Schultz said that the United States and Germany had the same approach to Ukraine, to Russia, and to sanctions, but did not directly confirm the Nord Stream 2 plans or mention the pipeline publicly by name over the course of his day-long visit. Because at the business in Germany that was founded in like the 1800s, possibly even before that, that just filed for bankruptcy and is closing the doors, along with many other industries in Germany. I mean, how can you be a leader of a country and the the line that you want to take is affecting country? It doesn't even make sense. I mean, you want to stand on essentially your morals in this, and it just doesn't even make sense. I kind of got distracted. Desert survival. Desert survival. What do you think the chances of bio or nuclear attack is? I'm a dual citizen of the U.S. and UK. I'm kind of worried about Putin nuking the UK. If you are listening, I would be more worried about what the United Kingdom and the United States are threatening to do. I mean, it's definitely would be possible, um, but if anything, it would be a retaliatory strike. It'd be us striking Russia or parts of Ukraine first. Um, and if you didn't see it earlier, the UK is getting ready to send over um, uh, enriched um, uranium enriched shells that are armor piercing, tank armor. Saying it all wrong, but they're able to pierce the armor on tanks. But they produce a dust that will stay on any of the people in the area that it comes in contact with, and it also is going to ruin the soil. Um, that's what I was getting ready to do was look up pictures, and I probably won't put them on, but I'm curious of what pictures, they talk about. I've seen parts of them before briefly, but, I mean, in Iraq, where the United States has used them, you got children that have been born since that war and are still being born, um, that are having major birth defects from it. So it's, uh, it's really bad. I mean, they even use, it to make, armor plating. They'll have it in armor plating, like on some of the new Abrams tanks, actually have it on there, but not the ones that we send to Ukraine, though, that we've stripped all that stuff off from them, which I don't think we've sold or sent too many of them there. But, yeah, it that depleted uranium is horrible, and it's definitely been a line that amped up Putin's rhetoric about nuclear, um, the usage of nuclear because of those. So let me see what alright, response to depleted what the chat bot has to say about that. So Putin's response to depleted uranium armaments. But like I'm saying though, that's the scary stuff, and that's a step in the direction. And I've been trying to find out where like Redacted had gotten their information about um the so-called planned assaults that the US and NATO are threatening to do in Ukraine in the territories that Russia has. So they're basically talking about a direct confrontation with NATO and the NATO military against Russia. So it's not the proxy war in Ukraine anymore. They're talking about direct intervention. And so that is the next step in World War III. I mean, essentially, we are in it already. I mean, once you start talking about taking over um, Taiwan, you have that front. When you start talking about taking on Russia, you have that front. I mean, that you're having all of Europe against Eurasia and Asia. You have Australia in the south, and I mean, where does it go from there? You have a lot of these African countries staying neutral in a lot of it, or leaning towards wanting to join BRICS, which is essentially, um, would you call it trading, an economy coalition. All right, so let's see what it says. Russian president said that Russia would respond if the UK supplied Ukraine with armor-piercing shells containing depleting uranium. He argued that the delivery of the armor-piercing weapons would prompt a Russian response. Putin said that if it happens, Russia will have to respond accordingly, given that the West collectively is already beginning to use weapons with a nuclear component. So, I mean, it's along those lines where the word nuclear gets brought up more and more, and that's the end of civilization when that starts to happen. So, um, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. See how long I've been going so far. 50 minutes tonight. I think that's gonna wrap it up for tonight. I usually been sticking right around more than a half hour and less than an hour. So, hopefully that answered your question. I hope you check back in again. This is something I just got started. Um, I have a passion for wanting to bring information to people, to have conversations with people, to, you know, shift away from the two-party paradigm, I political identity politics, get away from all that and realize what we have in common. Um, at the end of the day, we all put our pants on the same way. We all do the same things. We all have the same basic needs. And a lot of these other things are just used to manipulate us into thinking that we are against other people, over next to nothing. I mean, same when it comes down to um, why, uh, like, for instance, how people in the United States view people in Russia. A lot of the people in Russia, even with all the stuff going on with the United States sanctioning them, still love Western culture. I mean, they want to be like us in many ways. So, we're good at um, putting out culture. That's one thing that we are good at exporting, but we're not too good at exporting many goods anymore. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna wrap it up for tonight, and I will try to be back again tomorrow. Thank you, and as always, free Assange.